Give me an example.
Okay.
And it can be the podcast. You know, give me an example of something that you do that you've recently done that is self-destructive.
Recently I've been pretty good, but yeah, I would say the podcast probably. Like I just kept having blow ups and stuff like that.
Tell me what exactly happened. Let's go through it.
This is like, oh my God, this is like the third time that this happened that we had like this like full out blowout. But I do have like problems. Like I'm a little like schizo and I'm a little borderline, so I have like problems, but I'm medicated for it.
What kind of medication do you want?
There's this one called Calyptor. It's for schizophrenia, so it's like I don't hear voices or see things anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So without that, you actually do have schizophrenia?
Yeah. So I got diagnosed this year with it, but like I honestly think it's something that like got developed. Like I really do, because I never heard voices up until like 32. When I'm 33
what kind of
now.
voices do you hear? What do they say?
It used to be demon voices. It used to be voices like I'd be like up at like the second story of my house. I had to like block off because they'd be like, oh, just jump out that window. Like you can go meet like your grandfather or something like that because he's dead. So it was stuff like those voices. But then it started going into nicer voices. I got put on medication in May. And then I started hearing, or like during the time, because it takes 6 weeks to kick in, from June, I started hearing like other voices just talking to me. And that's kind of when like the meltdown happened on the podcast again. It wasn't as bad because I am in therapy for borderline too. So like I'm able to like, disengage and learn how to like control myself. Because I used to be like crazy. Like if like I got triggered, I would call people names, and I've like controlled that. So I feel like I've made progress, but yeah.
So let's go through what exactly happened on the podcast. I really didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't really follow that part of the whole online stuff. It's not what I do. But tell me exactly how did it start and what happened?
This last like blow.
Yes.
It basically was, I was talking and like my co-host like
Ethan, right?
Ethan, yeah. Do you know him?
No, I've been told about, so I have a bit of background, right?
Okay. Yeah, you always know so much about your guests. I'm always impressed. I was watching your like a couple episodes. I'm like, God, you know so much about these people. It's amazing. It's really good.
I have a good memory.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I tried to do this interviewing thing before on a podcast and it did not last long. It was so hard for me to remember things. Right. But yeah, Ethan, he just, it was something minor where he just like was like ignoring me, like talking over me, and like I just snapped for it. So like in that moment I snapped and I was just like, well, this next segment sucks, because he was talking over me and he wanted to go to this Q&A and I was like, it sucks. And then it like spiraled. It started like getting like, he started like pushing me, and that's been our thing, right? Is he
pushing you physically or emotionally?
No, emotionally. So there's like borderline, like there's triggers, right? Like people trigger you and then you just like, it's called like splitting. It's like all or nothing. Like I split,
I know it very well. So
okay.
I've been married to borderlines.
So okay. so it's hard, and it's hard to deal with a borderline. Like my fiance had to go to therapy with me to understand, because like he didn't get it. Like
sure.
It's like all or nothing. It's like, you really have to disengage from someone when they do that. So he would trigger me. This is the third time that this happened where we had full on blowouts. And for me, he exploited it, but I exploited it too. I exploit my mental illness. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I can get triggered easily, and if that's what people want to see. So I thought he was doing that because he started triggering me. It kept going from one thing. He's like, you're getting upset right now. You're upset. And I'm like, I'm not. Because at the time I wasn't upset. I was like, I'm not. But because, when someone asks you that, then you're just like, are you fucking, like, don't tell me how I feel.
The worst thing to do to someone who's upset is say, calm down. There's no reason to be upset. What do you mean fucking right?
Yeah. He's like, why are you upset? I'm like, I'm not. I was literally trying to have a conversation, and I'm like, I'm not. And he's like, you're upset right now. And I was, then there's like that point of no return.
Sure.
And so, but I was better this time.
It's like scorched earth policy. At that point, like you see red, it's like, that's fucking it. I don't care what happens. Let the chips fall where they may.
Exactly. Yeah. You're just like, well, here it goes. Whatever. You can't go back from it. But I was a lot better this time because I thought I handled myself pretty good. I kept asking to end it. I asked probably like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, we need to end this, because we had therapy sessions on the show when this happened before, and Dr. Drew would come on and be like, when this happens, Trish, you need to like disengage and just say you want to end the show. So I kept asking to end it. He kept pushing. It did not end for the next like 10 to 15 minutes, kept pushing, and eventually he's like, well, just leave. If you want to leave. And I'm like, no, because then you have that clip of me walking off. That's the clip you always had of me being upset. And I'm like, let's just end it now. And and then we were totally fine. Like an hour later, he's like, you want to come film tomorrow? We were fine. And then it's just so much. And then he texted me, said the crew was upset that I disrespected the crew, which was not true.
Right.
And we actually did a podcast this week, which he's not airing, where he apologized because he lied. He sent them screenshots and said that I wanted to fire the crew and I didn't. So then I just quit, because I thought, well, if the staff thinks I'm rude, then I don't want to go back. But then it was a lie. It was all lies.
Did you quit on air, or did you quit privately?
I quit privately first, and then the next day I made a video.
And what did you say in the video?
I said, I'm quitting frenemies.
You're quitting frenemies,
Yeah,
right?
I'm quitting the podcast. And I was respectful in the video. He may not say I was, but I was like, if the crew felt disrespected, he said they felt disrespected, which again, I think this is all lies because he lied. I mean, he admitted to lying on this last week's podcast that didn't air. But he basically said that the crew, that meant I wanted to fire the whole crew because I wanted to hire one new producer. And so he's like, because you wanted to hire someone new, that means firing the whole crew. I don't have the power to fire that crew. They've been on salary for 4 years before I got there. I was like, so he got in the middle somehow and like told them that I wanted them fired. I'm not sure. It's all lies because he admitted to like that. I'm like, find the text where I said I wanted the crew fired, and he looked and he apologized to me, but then he texted me and said, "Oh, I'm not going to air it because it's going to make it worse for the both of us." I'm like, no, it's going to make it worse for you because you're apologizing.